Welcome, viewer. This is the West Side Story, a show that discusses matters pertaining to Western Kenya. My name is Roslyn Yamato. My guest today is Nick Okello, here to discuss about the Luo culture and lifestyle. Welcome, Nick.
Thank
How
you
are
very much, Roslyn. I'm good. I
Welcome.
also hope you're good.
I'm also good. Thank
Yeah.
you. And welcome.
Thank
to
you
the
very
show.
much to the welcome me to this show, and I know it's exciting to discuss the Luo lifestyle and culture.
Indeed.
Indeed. So I'm ready.
It is said that being a Luo is a lifestyle. How did that come about, and what can you say about that?
Well, Luos in their nature are people who have a unique way of existence, and that uniqueness is now informed by something they call a way of life, a culture. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because Luos generally are known to be people who are proud. Luos are known to people who like good things, honest ways, and again, they love their own way of doing things. So it makes them actually stand out amongst other communities, and that's why it's called a lifestyle. So we say that if you don't have a lifestyle, then you're not a Luo. So
Indeed.
it goes like that. So the culture we talk about in Luo it's an embodiment of all that put together. You know, the pride in them, and again, not to forget to mention, they're also very bright.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So when you put all these things together, we say that this is now a culture. So it's been coined into a culture, and people have consumed that as the reality. And why not? Because it's deserved.
That's true. And viewer, as you can tell, indeed, Nick is very proud of being a Luo.
Sure.
But
Am I?
following up on that being lifestyle and liking expensive, just expensive lifestyle indeed, does it bring pressure on the young, upcoming Luo youngsters, especially Luo men?
Not really. I think it motivates them. It doesn't pressure them. It motivates them to even become better Luos with a better lifestyle than what we have right now, because they look up to a Luo professor, for instance. You pick somebody like Professor Patrick Lumumba, PLO. So a Luo who wants to be a good public speaker would want to emulate PLO Lumumba. A Luo would want to see some sharp dressing. They just want to associate with good things. So I don't think it really brings pressure. It motivates them, the young ones indeed. So I believe younger Luos who are coming perhaps would be sharper than the ones who are there now.
Indeed, viewer, you have heard. It's a motivation and not pressure. So young people out there, take this as a way of encouraging you to work harder and do better in life.
Yes.
On the cultural practices of the Luo cultural practices, we sometimes hear of all sorts of myths of the practices that are being undertaken by the Luo culture. Could you pick on some that you can talk to the viewer about, some positive practices, and to clear the myth that some viewer has out there about the Luo culture?
Well, apparently, again, it's the Luo culture that is always being focused on, yet there are very many other cultures around. But yes, indeed, like you said, Luos will always try to outshine every other person, and that is why our culture is sometimes being looked at by very many people and discussed. Now, there are those cultures, of course, that we must say time has eroded. But I don't think there's any culture that was designed to be bad for the Luo community.
True.
Maybe it's because of civilization. Secondly, it's because of education. And lastly, it's because of exposure that we are getting to see, like, some of them are like so backward. There is no culture that is backward.
True.
Indeed, we lived with these cultures for years and years and years. They were good for us. and Luo culture is not exceptional. I know people talk of things like wife inheritance.
Yes.
I know that is the number one thing. But wife inheritance is a practice that has been practiced for time immemorial. Even in the Bible, we have instances where things like this happened. And if it is well done, the way it was prescribed, it's such a good practice, if you ask me. But now we abuse it and make it look bad.
That's true.
Because wife inheritance in our society was not something that was open. And the liberties that came now make people feel that liberty is actually abusing what is yours. So a wife, for instance, who lost a husband was only supposed to be inherited or taken by the kin of the husband,
Yes.
for continuity of the family and to also carry the name of the deceased.
Yes.
So it had a whole bank of all the goodness you'd imagine. Again, in the Luo society, it was a shame to the community if one of you died and the wife is neglected. So they took it upon themselves like a community responsibility that if so-and-so loses a husband and she's still young, then the community will now team up and ensure that the kids and the widow are protected and that they don't feel like now their husband and father is gone and they are alone. So it is the way we practice it that makes it look bad. But the practice itself is good.
That is true.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm glad that you've talked about the community coming together to take care of that family.
Yeah.
And I think that's where people got it wrong at some point. They made it look like it's that individual who just wants to take this woman as a wife
Yeah.
and just continue on living with her.
Yeah.
And as you have put it, really it was to continue with the continuity of the woman's husband and not this man taking the
Yeah.
family as his own.
As his own
I
and
think
taking the family
there
away.
need to be clarification there.
Very good clarification should be
Yes.
put into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I know you might also want to ask others. There are things that are just societal. We can't change them. There are cultures that sometimes Luos are being some, like this one, that the circumcision aspect of it for the Luo men. It's our culture. Yeah, for us now we go for circumcision because of medical reasons. It's not that it's a rite of passage like other communities,
Yes.
but because of medical
Health,
reasons now,
yes.
it's been picked up by the community and they're practicing it at large right now.
Yes.
But if you look at our culture and traditions, it wasn't such a big deal.
Yes.
Yeah, for us, we used to remove the 6 lower teeth.
Yes.
And it was just business as usual. And imagine, even for a lady, if you had your teeth or the 6 lower teeth put together still, God created them, no man would come for you.
True.
You would not get any sweeter. Imagine.
That's true.
That's the paradox of things. But because of time and change, technology, we find that is not even now something fashionable. And therefore, things like that will be discarded, and they've been discarded.
Yes.
Yeah. So not all, but a few can be amended.
Yes.
Yeah.
Indeed, there's those cultures that we have to do away with because of civilization. However, are there certain cultural practices that have been dropped that you feel maybe should have still continued?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you could please give us an example.
In our society, in the Luo community, there are things like something called teroburu. Teroburu is a practice that was done to appease the dead after 40 days. And it's a practice that we were doing just to ensure that the dead spirit did not feel neglected and then comes back to haunt people. So teroburu is a practice where we try and cleanse and appease at the same time the dead spirit to just let us be in peace, because the Luos believe that the dead are also people who have serious influence in our lives. So you would be dead, yes, but your spirit would be living amongst the Luos. And it is that spirit that sometimes comes to really disturb people. So some of these practices were done symbolically to let people psychologically feel rested that now we are okay. We can't be haunted again. The spirit is now at peace with us, and it is good. So that has been dropped, and I think it's something that was so colorful. It was carnival in it. It was a celebration as well, and it was something that if you looked at how it was done, it was something that was nice to see.
I wish to, if you could give a bit more, if it's allowed culturally, to explain a bit more how that was conducted. I think I'm also interested in knowing for my own knowledge, because I believe many of us have our own misconception what you've said Tero Buru is
Tero
about.
Buru, yeah.
We've all heard of all sorts of stories that
Yeah.
somebody sleeps with the dead body and things like that. I would like to have a better understanding, and I'm sure the viewer would also like to have a bit more, if it's allowed, to explain what happens in that ceremony.
It's allowed, and that is why perhaps we are here to shed more light into it, and you see, do away with the myths that surround all of this. Teroburu is a practice that was done by the community when somebody passed on. After a particular period of time, the community would again come together, just like they came together during the burial ceremony. They now come together to appease the spirit. In this undertaking, there was so much that was happening in terms of activities. People would bring in their cows from homesteads. They were put together. There was a meeting of all the cows put together. The community comes together, and they would be decorated in leaves and branches. Some of them carrying spears with shields, and it was actually a movement. You'd think these guys were cattle rustlers who had just taken a huge herd of cattle, but you see, the community, everybody donates their own head of cattle and then put together, and they could move even 10 kilometers from the homestead of the dead. And then as they move, there would be a huge cloud of dust. That is what we call buru. So as you move in a big group, you have the cows there.
Yes.
People are doing all singing their digests. People are doing all their things there. There's so much dust that is kicked over. So that dust, which is called buru in Luo, is what actually gave it the name Teroburu. So Teroburu is actually to take away the dust.
Wow.
So taking this dust away was also a way of informing that the spirit here has been sent away to peacefully be there and never come and haunt. So it was a carnival thing, it was ceremonial, it was something that brought the community again together, and the dead also felt that, well, I'm recognized in this.
Wow.
Don't forget, there would be food to be eaten, some bulls would be slaughtered again, and people would really merry around that as a celebration.
Thank you very much. I've also learned something today. It has given me a better understanding. What I also used to hear, I thought it was what I mentioned earlier. And it reminds me that those cultures, that even the Muslim, after 40 days, they come back together. There's a ceremony they have. It's actually the same thing.
The same thing.
It's just that people choose to bash certain communities, bring the negative out of it. Thank you so much, Nick. We've learned so much from you today. I personally have learned a lot. I'm not sure, would you have some parting shot for our viewer, for the young upcoming people?
Yeah, for the young ones, there's a saying in Swahili that puts it so straight that mwachamila ni mtumwa. When you leave your culture and traditions, you become a slave of the one that you've adopted.
True.
Yeah, so becoming a slave of a culture that is alien to you is what is disturbing our coexistence as people right now. And we are losing it because we've gotten into somebody else's practice, and it's not befitting for us, and it messes us up.
Yes.
You know what is happening right now around the world.
Yes.
Yeah, so even if I don't mention, you just know how our good cultures have been eroded by what we've adopted from the West. Some of them are really not good things for us. And they're really messing the society. They're putting us in a situation where it looks so bad. We are Africans, and we are proud to be Africans. I wish we maintain who we are, because our identity will never change. Even if we get to other cultures, we still remain an African. And the young Africans coming up, please stick to your lane of culture and traditions. Pick what is progressive and leave alone what is not.
Indeed. Thank you very much. That is the West Side Story. I believe you have learned something today. Join us again next time when we shall have another interesting guest and topic. with us. Thank you.
Thank you.